I once found myself in a peculiar situation at a busy McDonald's drive-thru. It was one of those chaotic evenings when the restaurant was swamped with customers both inside and outside the building. After placing my order, I was asked to park by the curb, and they assured me they'd bring my meal to me as swiftly as possible. As I patiently waited in my car, I couldn't help but notice the commotion around me. The atmosphere inside the restaurant was nothing short of chaotic, with harried employees trying to keep up with a seemingly never-ending stream of orders. After a few minutes that felt more like an eternity, a young girl approached my car, her face a mixture of anxiety and distress. As she extended my food towards me, her voice quivered as she uttered the last words I expected to hear. "Please don't slap me." Stunned and perplexed, I instinctively responded with a bewildered, "What?" The young McDonald's employee then proceeded to share a startling tale. She recounted how the previous customer she had delivered food to had become Irid and verbally abusive. To my absolute shock, the altercation had escalated to a point where the disgruntled customer had slapped her across the face. The cause of this Irid outburst: the perceived delay in receiving her order. My heart sank as I absorbed the reality of this absurd situation. It was a stark reminder of the stress and pressure that service industry workers can face during peak hours. In this case, it was an overburdened McDonald's employee who had fallen victim to a customer's outrage. I received my food, and as the young woman hurried back inside the restaurant, I couldn't help but reflect on the incident. It was a stark reminder that we should always treat service workers with respect and empathy, recognizing the challenges they face, especially during the busiest hours. This story served as a poignant lesson in the importance of kindness and understanding in our interactions with those who serve us. The world of fast food, where every shift has its own share of quirky incidents. I once had an unforgettable experience during my tenure at McDonald's. I was stationed at the drive-thru, covering for a colleague who had rushed off to use the restroom. It was a typically hectic day with orders flooding in and patience running thin on both sides of the window. As I greeted the customer at my drive-thru, I could sense the tension building. He seemed disgruntled and ready to vent his frustrations. Sure enough, within moments, a lit cigarette dangled from his lips, and a tirade of complaints started flowing. But what happened next was beyond my imagination. In a bizarre twist of events, he flicked his cigarette in my direction, and before I could react, I found myself showered with ashes. Some even managed to make their way into my eyes. I was momentarily stunned, my uniform speckled with tiny embers. Instinct took over, and my immediate reaction was to grab the drink I was about to hand him. However, rather than offering it, I found myself tossing it back at the source of my discomfort. The cup sailed through the air, liquid splattering, and the icy beverage met its mark, the Irid Customer. In the midst of the chaos, I briefly wondered if my impromptu water fight would cost me my job, but I was in luck that day. I was, after all, the only manager present at the time. Surprisingly, the incident ended with the customer in a state of shock, drenched in sugary liquid and speechless. As unconventional as it was, this episode left an indelible mark on my memory. It was a vivid illustration of how emotions could escalate in a high-pressure environment like the fast food industry. The incident, although strange, also emphasized the importance of maintaining one's composure, even in the face of an unexpected and rather soggy confrontation. The joys of working at McDonald's, a place where you can encounter the full spectrum of human behavior. My time as a manager at a Mickey D's right off the interstate certainly provided its fair share of unforgettable moments, but one late-night episode takes the cake. It was during the days when our restaurant closed at midnight, and the clock was ticking toward that fateful hour. Just before 11:45, a family walked in. 3 adults and a child who looked about 7 or 8 years old. The sight of these latecomers was enough to make the employees collectively groan. But of course, we had a duty to serve them as long as we were technically open. I handed them their food, already neatly bagged as a subtle hint that closing time was fast approaching. However, they simply strolled over to a booth, sat down, and started eating, seemingly unfazed by the impending closing procedure. Perhaps they had been on the road for hours and simply needed a moment of respite, a notion we could understand. As the clock struck midnight, it was time to lock the doors, a routine task that couldn't be delayed. With a tone as polite as possible, I approached them, gently informing them that the store was closing, and we kindly requested they finish their meal soon so that we could complete our closing routine. Time ticked on, and it was now 12:10. We were usually well on our way home by this hour, but the family remained firmly planted in their booth. At this point, it was beginning to feel as if they were intentionally testing our patience. 12:20 came and went, an unusual sight for a McDonald's. The staff was growing increasingly agitated as the family showed no signs of leaving. At this juncture, it seemed they were lingering solely to aggravate us. Summoning all the patience I could muster, I once again approached the family. I explained the necessity of their departure, as it was past our closing time, and I was beginning to worry about the consequences from my supervisors if they happened to drive by. However, the family's reaction was far from cooperative. Their response was laden with expletives, essentially declaring that they would leave when they pleased, asserting their customer rights. Taking a deep breath, I counted to 5 to regain composure. Then, I calmly delivered an ultimatum. If they didn't leave within the next 5 minutes, I would have no choice but to call the police. This was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, setting the family into an enraged tirade. Their expletive-laden outbursts continued, with defiance in full display. I turned away and returned to my post behind the counter, watching the seconds tick by. The 5-minute mark arrived, and that's when a small, unexpected hero emerged. The young girl from the family approached the counter, her eyes expressing a mixture of fear and determination. She uttered a plea. "Please don't call the cops. We're leaving." My heart went out to that brave little girl. It was clear that she had been caught in the middle of her family's stubbornness. Finally, with the family exiting the restaurant, the ordeal was over. It was a bizarre night, marked by the resilience of a young child who managed to defuse a situation that had turned unnecessarily tense. Working at a beachfront hotel front desk is often a mixed bag of experiences, from delightful interactions to head-scratching encounters. I'll share one such memorable night on the job, where an enraged guest's antics took an unexpected turn. The setting: a picturesque beachside hotel with a lovely pool deck that, like clockwork, had to be closed at night due to city ordinances. The reason? A shortage of lifeguards available for the late hours. To ensure everyone's safety, nighttime poolside fun was a no-go. However, there were always a few exceptions to the rule. On this particular evening, I encountered a middle-aged woman who was part of a group that had rented a poolside room. This room was strictly non-smoking, which is essential to remember for later. As night fell, I dutifully went about the task of securing the pool deck. The golden rule was to lock everything up after dark, as the hotel could face hefty fines for allowing guests to take a moonlit dip without lifeguards on duty. And that's when I spotted the woman. She was on the deck, casually enjoying a cigarette. I politely reminded her that the deck was closed, and she'd need to vacate the premises. She requested a moment to finish her smoke, and I agreed, locking up the area to prevent anyone else from entering. An hour later, I received a noise complaint. Quite the party was going on, with loud music and merriment echoing from the pool deck. This was a peculiar situation, as the pool deck should have been off-limits. I ventured out and found that our cigarette-smoking friend had propped open the door, inviting the rest of her group to join her for a late-night soiree. I told them firmly that the pool deck was off-limits, as it was against the law for them to be there. The woman was displeased, to say the least. She ranted about needing to smoke and her non-smoking room, vowing to light up in there if I didn't allow her to smoke on the deck. I calmly informed her that she could smoke in her room, but a $200 cleaning fee would apply. She wasn't thrilled about that idea, so she decided she'd stick to the pool deck. At this point, I had no choice but to call the authorities. This news did not sit well with her, and she began hurling insults and accusations at me. The situation quickly escalated, and I soon found myself in the midst of a very public meltdown. Around an hour later, she stormed up to the front desk, utterly intoxicated and fuming. Her verbal assault on me was relentless, accusing me of violating her rights, calling the cleaning fee illegal, and declaring that she'd called the cops on me. The situation had now reached a point where I was getting noise complaints from other guests who could hear her loud tirade from their rooms. Her friends were fueling the fire, encouraging her erratic behavior while openly consuming beers. Then the police arrived, summoned by the very same woman who had just unleashed a torrent of anger upon me. The officers tried their best to defuse the situation, attempting to figure out what she wanted. However, she was so intoxicated that no one could get a word in edgewise, as she kept yelling over everyone. As the tension escalated, the cops attempted to hear my side of the story, which only seemed to further infuriate the woman. It was at this juncture that she made a grave mistake. Fueled by liquid courage and irrational anger, she chose to label one of the armed officers a sexist pig and then inexplicably slapped him. In a heartbeat, the scene transformed into chaos, with the police swiftly and decisively taking control. They subdued the woman, handcuffed her, and placed her in the back of a squad car. It was a jaw-dropping twist in an evening that had already been filled with bizarre antics. The rest of the night passed without further incident, and we never saw the irate woman again. It was a stark reminder that sometimes working at a hotel front desk near the beachfront could lead to encounters that defy all expectations.